I wasn't cancelable on all fronts, just 2 out of 3, but that wasn't enough.
But how did they take your clinical practice away from you?
Oh, well, the amount of attention that my work attracted and the political tension around it became so intense that, number one, I didn't have the mental space to concentrate 100% on my client's concerns.
Right.
And that's unforgivable. When you're doing therapy, in that hour, you have to be open and attentive in a way that prioritizes the communication, verbal and nonverbal, of the people you're dealing with, partly because you're dealing with life and death issues generally. There's no time for distraction. And I was able generally to concentrate without distraction on my client's concerns. But when everything blew up around me, that became impossible. So I couldn't offer the services properly or be available off hours when I needed to be available. And so that isn't exactly taken away, let's say. But but the political conflict made it impossible to consider. But also the professional colleges have been weaponized. And so it's possible to take a complaint out against me. Anyone in the world can take a complaint out against me for any reason whatsoever, whether they were my client or not. And then the college launches an investigation. That's a 6-month process. They say the process is the punishment. And that requires legal defense on my part. And most of the time, I have 2 or 3 of those going on at the same time. And so that's also made things practically impossible.
I see.
And the same thing in some real sense happened at the university. There's no way that I thought about, I didn't know what to do with my university career because I wasn't fired, although all the evidence was pointing to the fact that my firing was the goal. I was able to stop that in its tracks by being strategic and careful. And then I became very ill for a variety of reasons, which I still don't precisely understand. And when I started to recover in October, I started to think through whether or not, or in August, I guess, I started to think through whether or not I could actually go back to the university because I was on a leave of absence back as a full-time researcher and professor. And I realized that, well, that was just impossible. None of my graduate students are going to get academic jobs. The mere fact that they're associated with me in any way whatsoever will absolutely disqualify them from any academic job for the rest of their lives.
Really?
Well, look, if you're going up for a professorship, say at a decent university, research-oriented university, there's probably 200 applicants for a given entry-level position. And so the issue that is before the hiring committee is who to say no to, and the answer is 99.5% of the applicants. And so any reason to say no is a reason, and certainly any whiff of scandal, and that's part of that effectiveness of the cancel culture, any whiff of scandal is enough to put you in the reject pile, even if, no matter what the scandal is, but also that it's a political scandal and that I'm hypothetically allied with the right in today's academic climates, like that's just a non-starter, my students. So how can I have graduate students under those conditions? And there's no bloody way to get a grant in Canada. Now you have to write a diversity, inclusivity, and equity statement. And I wouldn't write one of those if you put a gun to my head.
No.
So that's a non-starter. And well, and there's all sorts of other reasons, like many other reasons.